I've got to share this with you, I really have. I'll tell you, this is going to get Mark Francois, you know, one of the Spartans, all rattled. Poor little Penfold. Well, remember the Windsor Framework that was signed early this year? You know, Richie Sunak's Northern Ireland Protocol Mark II. Well, apparently, according to this, it's going to have cataclysmic effects for UK food exports. It's going to cost an absolute fortune. Not in just the actual cost of implementing it, but, well, detrimental to trade itself. Well, I'm going to read this to you because this is really cool. Oh, actually, but it's for me who's saying, oh, I told you so. I suppose you have to forgive me for that because it's a bit like that. But for those on the receiving end of it and those actually who have got jobs and what have you, potentially at risk because of this policy, that ain't funny. No. So, anyway, this deal was signed, weren't it, back in February. So, and he boasted, didn't he, that it would deliver smooth flowing trade with Northern Ireland, etc. So the whole of the United Kingdom. Oh dear. But just 2 months after the Windsor Framework came into effect, it's having huge unintended consequences. Now, if you remember, not for the EU, remember them stickers? They've got to be applied to all the foodstuffs. Well, it gets worse, I'll tell you. Now, since October this year, all meat and some dairy products moving from Great Britain to be sold in Northern Ireland, as part of the UK, have been required to carry the not for EU labels. And it meant to ensure that goods aren't moved onward to the Republic of Ireland, because there's no real border, is there? There's a border, but it's just there. It's, you just walk across it. In fact, there's houses built on it. Now, so moving onward into the Republic of Ireland, which is a European Union member country. We all know that was very controversial at the time, wasn't it? The questions were, even during the Brexit campaigns and what have you, the questions were, well, what about Northern Ireland? And, well, whatever. Idiots. That they are. Well, wouldn't it surprise you if I told you that the British government is actually taking it another step further? They didn't tell us this one, did they? Now, from October 2024, all meat and dairy products sold right across the UK, the whole of the United Kingdom, not just destined into the EU, no, the whole of the United Kingdom is, going to have these labels on all foodstuffs, even if they're not even destined for Northern Ireland. Where's Mark Francois? I have a word with him. Anyway, the requirement will be applied to more UK food products from July 2025 as well, and applies whether the food is produced in the UK or imported. Now, businesses say that the plans for the UK-wide rollout go way beyond Brussels' requirements as set out in the Windsor Framework. So it's above and beyond. We don't have to do half this stuff, but we're going to. Called the Richie Sunak's Windsor Framework. Now, Sean Ramsden, Director of the Food and Drink Exporters Association, I talked about them before actually, and the CEO of food export business Ramsden International, described the new system as absolutely cataclysmic for food exporters. Now, Ramsden told Politico he fears that eventually all the products he supplied with by partner Co-op will be labelled not for the EU, which meant we can't export them to the EU. See what's going on there? They're literally cutting off their market. As soon as these labels are applied, they can't sell them abroad. So while large manufacturers may find it easier to comply with the new rules, Ramsden says that the changes could prove too costly for small operations. Now, a lot of manufacturers will probably just give up, not worth the candle, so to speak, on the European market, and it seems that the inconsequential thing to say, but put it onto the packaging, but In practice, it means changing the production lines or production runs. So, like for instance, you might have a run that's for the UK only, and then you have a run that's not for the EU. Oh, it's the same thing. One for the European market and one not for the European market, which that's not cheap to do. Now, I remember Johnston and Husqvarna chainsaws. They used to change their production lines. They used to have orange for Husqvarna, and they'd produce them like 2 or 3 days a week. And then Johnston, which is basically the same machine, but it'd be red, and it'd be produced every 2 or 3 days a week. So they've got to do that. Well, his concerns were echoed by Balwinder de Hout, Director of Sustainability and the Growth at the Food and Drink Federation, FDF. He told British MPs recently the implementation costs of the labelling requirement would run into hundreds of millions of pounds a year across the industry. Oh my God. It generates a risk for hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds worth of exports, he told MPs last month. That is an unnecessary domestic policy, and you cannot have a trade policy that is trying to promote exports in one hand and trying to undermine domestic policy in the other. What's that like say? Cut your nose off to spite your face or something? Is that the phrase? Now, a spokesperson for the group, which represents food and drink manufacturers, said the labelling removes the flexibility that was agreed in the EU and will result in less choice for shoppers in both Northern Ireland and Great Britain. Oh, Brexit is shit. It really is. He says a more pragmatic approach would be to monitor supply before taking any kind of action and work with the industry to provide practical solutions. Even better idea would be to not have Brexit in the first place. But that's too late for that. Now, the immediate threat, it goes on to say, although the United Kingdom-wide labelling requirements do not come into force until October next year, some manufacturers appear to be already using the labelling system in preparation for the rollout. You see, they buy ahead. You know? Some of the stock that they're using is stock they've had. So they've got to think ahead. As a result, Ramsden says his company is having to do manual checks on everything. Take out the labelled products from the orders and return them to the supplier. Oh, God. Credit them to the customer and take them off our list. Oh, God's sake, this is just ridiculous. Another unintended consequence that Ramsden warns is that non-EU customers will be put off by the not for EU labels. Oh, crikey, I'll tell you something, there's nut jobs out there. A label's going to stop you from buying. If we export to other markets, what are the consumers going to think when they see not for the EU on the packaging? They're going to question whether it's safe, he said. That's a valid point. That's a really valid point. It's going to stigmatise the product. Now, for Ramsden, the labelling requirement is just the latest in a string of headaches and resulting from the UK leaving the EU, which has already seen the company's sales with the bloc plummet from £25 million to £16 million as a result of Brexit, as a direct result of Brexit. His words. Told you so. Well, this will finish it all because we are supplied by stock that This will finish it all because we are supplied by stock that's in circulation in the UK market. Oh, God's sake. A government spokesperson said the Windsor framework drastically reduces the paperwork, apparently. Is it even reading that? Probably isn't, is it? Because government spokespersons, they're just idiots, aren't they? They're just telling you shit. That's what they tend to do. Sorry, I just say it as I see it. Anyway, the Windsor framework drastically reduced the paperwork and processes required compared to the old protocol. Now, we continue to engage extensively, they say, with businesses to support them in adapting these new arrangements. I tell you what, they're probably supporting the businesses as much as they were during the pandemic, as in small and medium enterprises. Yes, they set them adrift, pretty much. It's just mad. The whole thing is absolutely mad. But it was obvious. Anyone with half a brain cell, that's obviously not a Brexiter. They haven't even got a quarter. I'm surprised they can even function. I'm just waiting for Mark Francois or that kind of ilk to start speaking out. That's what I'm waiting for. Regardless, not for EU labelling. Crikey. Brexit is just going to destroy British business. It really is. Anyway, it's time for me to go. It looks like toodaloo, you know. And a share would be nice.